What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Ice from Game Changer Sports Network. Today, I'm going to be going over my weekly power rankings. This is the last week of the NHL regular season. The season is going to be concluding Saturday. There are some shakeups this week, and there are a few new teams, and a few of the top teams that have been in the top 10 all year have dropped out of the power rankings right now. So me and Kevin are just going to jump right in, and then we do have a thought or two about some of the games tonight that we're going to talk about at the end. But right now, I'm just going to list the top 10 teams, and then we'll break down each team by team. At number 10, Nashville. Number 9, Pittsburgh. Number 8, New York Islanders. Number 7, Montreal. Number 6, Carolina Hurricanes. Number 5, St. Louis Blues. Number 4, Washington Capitals. Number 3, Boston Bruins. Number 2, Calgary Flames. And number 1, the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, Kevin, do you want to jump right into the Tampa Bay Lightning at number 1 for the last week?
Yeah, definitely. Let's start with Tampa Bay. They've had a bit of a rough week, falling to the Capitals and the Canadiens earlier on. Canadiens are right outside of the playoffs. Capitals are someone that they very well likely could face. So 2 Eastern Conference playoff teams, we'll call them. They have 2 wins left that they would need to tie the all-winning record. But that may be out of reach, just seeing how they've been playing lately, and I'm sure they're trying to mentally prepare for the playoffs. However, I mean, they could have stopped trying 2 weeks ago, to be honest, and they'd still be in the position they are now. So I think they're looking good for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, they have to play Toronto and Boston in those final 2 games. So it could be a little difficult to hit that 62 wins. But right now, as a team, I would be a little less concerned about that and a little more concerned about the playoffs starting in a week.
Absolutely.
Number 2, the Calgary Flames. They have officially clinched the Western Conference and are on a 3-game winning streak. These wins have included a 6-1 win over Anaheim, a 5-3 win over San Jose, and a 7-2 win over the Los Angeles Kings. They do finish the season against Anaheim again and Edmonton. However, right now, like I said, for Tampa Bay, I feel like Calgary's in the same position where they are trying to rest a little bit these last 2 games.
Yeah, Calgary's 7-3-0 in their last 10. And on their 3-game winning streak, they have a plus 12 goal differential, which is pretty good. And they're actually second right now in goals scored. I wonder who's first. And they're third in shooting percentages. I almost sort of see them as the Lightning of the West. Maybe once we get into like the swing of playoffs, we might see them a little differently. But for now in the regular season, that's what I would call them.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to jump in at number 3, or do you want me to start it off?
Yeah, I'll start us off. Boston, 6-4-0 in their last 10. They're 2-2 this week in games played, so they have played 4 this week. It is confirmed that they'll play Toronto in the first round of the playoffs, and I believe it's confirmed that they do have home ice advantage. So just a little cool fact, on Tuesday's 6-2 win against the Blue Jackets, or last night's win against the Blue Jackets, Marchand earned his 100th point of the season, and he's the first Bruin to do that since Joe Thornton. So it's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a while since they've had a 100-goal scorer. But, yeah, I mean, they're not on any crazy streaks like we saw earlier on, like about a month or 2 ago, but they're still going strong, and looking forward to see another Boston-Toronto playoff matchup.
Yeah, definitely. Some people do critique this playoff format because you see matchups between some of the top teams like Toronto and Boston year after year right now. But like you said, it was crucial that they clinched that home ice because they do have a home ice record of 29-8-3, and they are 6-4-0 in their last 10, and they are third in goals against and third on the power play, which could become very favorable for them come playoff time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to hop into number 4, the Washington Capitals. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10, and they started off their week with a win against the Hurricanes, and then they, surprisingly to me anyway, they beat Tampa 6-3. They were just firing shots like insanely. And Ovi actually scored his 50th goal during that game. So I believe this is his 8th season scoring 50 goals. And I think he tied with Gretzky, correct? Or is one season away? Yeah, which is crazy.
I'm sorry. No. Gretzky and Bossy both have 9.
He's one away. He's one away from the two of them.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that, though, not to cut you off, is Bossy's career was cut significantly short due to back injuries. So he hit 50 goals in 9 seasons, but he only played 9 NHL seasons.
So he went 9 for 9. That's crazy. Yeah. Just to finish up with the Caps, they fell to the Panthers 5-3, which was a little odd, but I mean they let in 5 goals in a row throughout the game, but their 3 goals all came in within the last 10 minutes. So while they weren't able to come back all the way and beat the Panthers, it is interesting to see that they can come back from these large point deficits. And even with 10 minutes left in the game, they still can show some fight. It's pretty cool that they defeated 2 Eastern Conference opponents who they could see in the playoffs, which they did earlier on in the week. So I'm really excited to see. I honestly believe right now that the Capitals and Tampa Bay are going to meet each other in the Eastern Conference Finals.
If I had to pick that right now, I would go with that. And I honestly think the Washington Capitals and the Boston Bruins, the way they play, are the 2 toughest teams that Tampa could have to face.
Definitely.
Number 5, and some people may be a little surprised by how high we rank them this week, but they are playing very well as of late. The St. Louis Blues, they are 7-2-1 in their last 10 games and have won back-to-back games. I see the St. Louis Blues as a little bit of a spoiler this year because many people could have counted them out of the playoffs earlier in the year when they were almost dead last. But then they crawled their way back up, and now they're 3rd in the Central, but they're only 2 points behind both Nashville and Winnipeg. So with 3 games remaining, they do have a game in hand on Nashville and Winnipeg. So if they win out, with Nashville and Winnipeg not playing their greatest at the moment, you could see one of these teams drop because of the St. Louis Blues.
Could the St. Louis Blues make it all the way up to the 1st seed?
Right now, they're only 2 points behind both Nashville and Winnipeg. So if Nashville and Winnipeg both don't win both their last 2 games and St. Louis wins out, then St. Louis will be the 1 seed.
I think I'd actually like to see the Blues make it to the 1 seed just because, like you were saying, they could very well be a spoiler. And I don't know, the Preds are nearing the end of what they could consider a Stanley Cup run. And the Jets are just starting to get into it, but because the Blues could take either of them out in the 1st round. So I'd like to see them actually go up against each other.
And the Blues' last 3 games are at Chicago versus Philadelphia and versus Vancouver. So those are 3 winnable games for the Blues right now.
Yeah, just going back into the Blues week a little bit. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10 games, and they're on a 2-win streak right now. Both of those wins were actually earned in overtime, so it came pretty close. I was at the game in Jersey rooting for the Devils, unfortunately for me. But it was a lot of fun. Their week actually was a little iffy, though, besides those 2 wins. But their new goalie, Binnington, is just exceeding expectations. And like you said, they're right behind Nashville and Winnipeg.
So, number 6, the Carolina Hurricanes. They are in a wild card spot right now. They are 44-29-7 on the season for 95 points and are 6-4-0 in their last 10 games. They are 3rd in shots against per game and the least shots against per game, which is a great stat to have for goalies. But Carolina, not to the same extent as the St. Louis Blues, I think, but Carolina could very well be a spoiler team as a wild card this year.
Yeah, I think their last 10 games don't exactly speak to what they've been doing in the last month. They had a rough schedule with losses to the Caps and Pittsburgh, But like you were saying, I mean, that's just one game in the regular season. If they go up against a team like that in the playoffs, they very well could figure out their play within the 7 games allotted. And who knows? Like, we could see them advancing to the next round. But, they did have some nice wins against Philly and Toronto. So they're holding tight in the race for that wild card for sure. Did you have anything else on them?
The only thing I could say that might hold them back, Carolina, is they are 20th on the power play. So their power play is not the greatest this season.
Yeah, but I think even though their power play isn't the greatest, like, they're first in shots on goal, so they're getting pucks to the net regardless of their advantages. But I could see how if it comes down to a playoff race where just small stats like that would definitely hurt them. But I'm going to jump into the next one, which is Montreal Canadiens. They are 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. They're also currently on a 2-game win streak versus the Jets, they won those 2 games against the Jets and the Lightning after an early loss to Columbus, which I think they really needed to win that game.
Yeah.
They're neck and neck with Columbus right now, and that win would have been huge. And it's kind of weird because, like, you see them beat the Jets and the Lightning, and I don't know, I'm surprised they couldn't pull it out against Columbus. But like I said, they have worked back to a tie for that final wild card spot. The only problem is their last 2 games are against Washington and Toronto, and Columbus's last 2 games are against Rangers and Ottawa. So, I mean, Rangers and Ottawa could play spoiler, but there's no sugarcoating it. Montreal has a rough schedule ahead.
Yeah. And on top of that, you pretty much summed it up. But on top of that, if Montreal does make it to the playoffs, they have the worst power play in the league. So that won't help them.
No, definitely not. Okay, so
you
want to
want
hop into number 8? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll do number 8. The New York Islanders. They are currently second in the Metro, 2 points ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are first in goals against with 190 goals against on the season. That's a very good stat to have, despite the fact that they are 29th on the power play. They are 5-5-0 in their last 10 games, and they have picked it up a notch. I feel they did hit a little bit of a slump for a week or 2, I believe, as of late. But my only concern for them is that will they actually be able to beat other playoff teams come playoffs?
Yeah, they definitely hit a slump. I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago. But earlier on this week, they earned 2 victories against the Jets and Buffalo. But then they fell to Toronto, which was pretty interesting because that was the rematch at the Coliseum. Tavares' second time back there as part of a different team. So, and he actually scored the winning goal in that game. But going back into like how the Islanders look in the rankings, they've held on pretty firmly to the 2nd seed, edging out Pittsburgh, who has been a little shaky lately. And they only sit 3 points behind the Caps, and I believe they both have 2 games left. So it is possible they could take the 1st seed, but I think either way, they're going to have home ice.
The interesting thing about what you said about them taking the 1st seed is if that does come down to it, they're going to have to literally take it from the Caps in their last game in Washington.
Which would be if the Caps lose their next game and the Islanders win their next game, that final game against the 2 of them is going to be crazy to watch.
Yeah. And who would have thought the season after Tavares leaves the Islanders that the Islanders would be on their way to the playoffs for the first time since 2016?
It's crazy. It's honestly like I don't get it, and it's not Tavares' fault either.
No.
But it's just crazy to see them doing so well right now, and like the Rangers and Devils, which is a cool stat. I actually wrote in an article yesterday. In the Rangers and Devils 37-year rivalry, at least one of those teams have been in the playoffs. So now neither of them are in, and the New York, New Jersey area team that is in is the Islanders, crazy enough.
That's crazy. So number 9 is another Metro team, the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are 43-26-11 and are 5-3-2 in their last 10 games. So like the Islanders, they have picked it up a little bit. However, I feel like they're just playing a little inconsistent right now. one night we see like the real Pittsburgh Penguins of what we would expect them, and then the next night we see what happened last night, which was a 4-1 loss to Detroit.
Yeah, I think if you look at the first half of the Penguins season, it was nothing special. All of the people who kind of like to get their early playoff opinions out were saying that they weren't even going to make it. But, I mean, they are the Pittsburgh Penguins. In the last couple of years, they seem to kind of like take it slow in the beginning and then start speeding towards their end goal in their last 20, 30 games. I think right now their problem is their growing injury list. They don't have all of their normal weapons and like players on offense and defense. But, I mean, they are only one win away from clinching their playoff spot. Exactly. So we're definitely going to see them in it.
Yeah, definitely. And their last 2 games are Detroit and New York. So they're definitely going to win one, if not both of those. And also, like you said, Pittsburgh has been known for their offense the past like decade or so. And their power play this season is 5th in the league and they're 7th in goals for. So even though they aren't having necessarily the stereotypical Pittsburgh Penguins season of like offensive explosion, they are still in the top 10 for both power play and goals for.
Right. So, I mean, I think it's really just going to come down to who has the will to win when it gets to the playoff time. And, I mean, if Penguins are healthy and ready to go, we're going to see them move on past the first round. But if they're playing kind of like how they've been playing in the past week or so, I'm just really not sure. But right now I'm going to hop into number 10, which is the Nashville Predators. 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. They had wins against Pittsburgh and Buffalo in this last week, but then a loss to the streaking at the time Columbus Blue Jackets, who were on that 5-game win streak for a little while, but then lost to Boston last night. They're currently tied with the Jets in the standings, like we were saying earlier, and 2 points above the Blues. So, I mean, if you have some more stats to add, please do, but it's just so tight right now in those first 3 seeds.
Yeah. The Central Division, to me, isn't necessarily the best division this year, but it's probably the most contested division, at least in the top 3 spots.
Which this time of year makes it very interesting to watch, not to cut you off.
Yeah, definitely. Nashville is up and down on special teams. This year, you would expect Nashville, after the past few years, to be in the top 5 on the power play. They're 30th on the power play, and they're 5th on the penalty kill. So it's a little interesting to see that because you don't really expect Nashville to have, like, if they don't have a very good power play, then they're going to have a good penalty kill. Because normally the past few years, Nashville has been solid. All 4 lines, their top 2 lines are scoring. Their bottom 2 lines are keeping the puck out. So, but they are 6-3-1 in their last 10 games, which is better than what the Winnipeg Jets are. So I do have to say, I think Nashville right now is the better team, but I wouldn't want to see Nashville and Winnipeg in a 7-game series because I would see that going to 7 games, and you never know what's going to happen in that series.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I know that you said, like how close this race is, and I'm just really surprised at how the Predators have been playing in their last half of the season. I know earlier on when we were talking about trade deadlines, they seemed like one of the winners, and their new pieces were really clicking early on. So I'm not really sure what's happening with them right now.
Their last 2 games are against Vancouver and Chicago. So those are for Nashville 2 winnable games. And if you're Nashville, they want to win both those games because that's all they can do to help them win that Central. I think their best bet right now is to win the Central and see what that home ice does for them.
Definitely. I agree. And if not win the Central, at least roll their dice on their own turf with the second seed.
So tonight and Wednesday night hockey, we do have 3 games, and a few of them don't really mean much, but there is one key note that I think out of the 3 of them there is to note. The first one is Ottawa at the New York Rangers, 7:30, 2 eliminated teams. That doesn't really mean much to either team right now. Second game, St. Louis at Chicago at 8 o'clock. This is the one game that I think you can take something away from. Chicago is eliminated, so playing against a division opponent, they will want to play spoiler. But St. Louis, with 3 games left in the season, wants to win and take advantage of the 6 available points that they have. And then Calgary at Anaheim at 10:30. Anaheim is eliminated, and just like Chicago, they are a division opponent to Calgary, so they would want to, like Chicago, would want to play spoiler. And Calgary doesn't really have much to play for, though, because they've already clinched the West in all the home ice.
Yeah, you went through those games pretty well. I think the only thing I want to add is I just checked, and Jake Allen is confirmed as the goalie for the St. Louis Blues. So like you were saying, the Chicago Blackhawks might want to play spoiler. I think the Blues have to be careful in this game. They might come in with like some confidence, but like I said, their last 2 wins did come in overtime, so it came extremely close. And I don't think Jake Allen has been the strongest goalie looking at the last few weeks. So I think if they want to use this extra game in hand to their advantage, they have to play it safe tonight.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, that wraps up this episode of Inside the Ice. As usual, check out all of our social media information on the slide at the beginning and end for Game Changer Sports Network and Inside the Ice. We are now on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for both, and Game Changer is on Instagram. We will have an episode within the next few days or so. Check us out and share us all you want. Have a great day, guys.
Bye, guys.